In the name of Allah. So in the last session we spoke about PHP numbers and also we spoke about PHP strings in previous sessions. In today's session we need to speak about PHP casting, type casting. Sometimes you need to change a variable from one data type to another data type. And sometimes you want a variable to have a specific data type. This can be done with casting. Casting is changing data type according to needs. So sometimes you need to change some data type. Or as we said, PHP is loosely typed. So loosely typed, we don't specify data type. But in some cases, you need to specify a variable to accept only a specific data type, a specific values. So that also can be achieved using the castings. So casting is used to change data types between variables and also specify a variable to get only a specific data type. Sometimes we need to change data type and sometimes we need to limit the data variable to accept only one type of data. As we said in PHP, we can change the variable data type according to our need. Sometimes we store an initial value as string, but in other steps we can change the from string to integer without any problem. But and that will generate problems in large scale applications. When you have a large financial application like ERP or CMS or others, that will generate lots of error and makes you and face you a lot of troubles. So in that case, we need to specify or limit our variables to accept the same type. As in strict typed language, we define data types for our variables like integers, strings, bools, floating points, and others. But in PHP, we don't have them. If you want the same condition in PHP, that can be achieved using castings. So, changing data type in castings in PHP, we use this format. For a string, we need to put string between parentheses, integer, float, bool, array, object, and set. These are all comes. But unset is not available in the latest PHP version. Unset is not available in latest PHP edition. The version that we are using is PHP 8.2. That's not available in PHP 8.2. It's deprecated. So how you can cast? First one is casting to a string. To cast to a string, use the string statement. The string between parentheses. String between parentheses. It will cast any variables to string. Here's an example. We have this without definition of any data type for them. If you want to convert these to a specific data type like strings, we can use the casing on them. Just put the string or integer or bool or any others. So just use the string or bool or integer between two parentheses. Between two parentheses. But the case is that your variable must be initialized first and then you can cast. You cannot cast it directly. First initialize it, then cast it. First initialize, declare the variable, and then cast it to others. So let's test them. So for testing, we need to open our project. So I have already started the XAMPP package. This is the Apache server. As we said, the PHP is a server-side language. So for server-side language, we must start our server. We must have a server. So we have installed Apache XAMPP. We need to start the Apache and then open our project. We have working on them. Then we need to define the variables. First, the variables are, let me do a copy paste for and then explain them for time consumption. I'll copy them. So firstly, we assign it some variables A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D, E. They don't have a specific data type. They don't have a specific data type. But the system knows them when there's a number with a decimal points, it knows as a integer. When we have a decimal point, it knows a float. When we have a text, it's a string. When you have true or false, it's a boolean. When you have a null, it's a null data type. So, but in here we case it all of them to a string. We case it all of them to a string. Even they are integer, float, string, boolean, and null, but we case it them to a string. We forced the compiler of our PHP to know them and as a string, to identify them as a string. So how it works? Let's see. Open up our project. Now it says it's a string with value of 1. That's 5. Another string with 4 characters. That's 5.34. Another string with 5. Another string with 1. Another string with 0. While we have 5 as an integer, 5.34 as a float, hello as a string, and 1 as a true or false boolean type, and then null as a 0. So the null is null. Doesn't have anything. It's 0. So these 1, 4, 5, 1, and 0s are the size of our string. Why size? Because in the string we have size. Yeah, we have different sizes. We case them to string, but actually they are not string. Actually, they are not string. They are numbers. Integer number, floating number, string, boolean, and null data types. But we have cased them to string. We can case to another types like float. So B is already float. Let me change this another one to float. So now the C has a value of hello. We case it to a float. Now the return is 0. Float 0. Why 0? That hello is a string. Can we change the text to number? We can't. So it says now it's a float but has no value. Has no value. And also if we change the float, the a to float, why we a is a fixed number without a decimal point. Is an integer number. If we cast it to a float, if we return this, now it is a float with value of 5 without any decimal points. Without no decimal point. But it's a number. But when you change it, the text, the string to float, they return it a 0. Why 0? Because we don't have a value on that. But if you have a number string, if you have a number string like 3.4, it's a number string, yeah? It's a number string, as you learned in last session. When a number comes inside double quotation, it's a number string. We can do calculations. Now we are changing this stuff to float. Let's see what happens. Now it says float, instead of 0, it comes 3.4. Why? Because 3.4 is a number. 3.4 is a floating number and we case it to a number, but it's inside double quotations. It's inside double quotations. As we know, when something comes inside double quotations, it's a string. So we case it to float. Now system knows it is a float. We can do calculations on it. We can do special operations on that because we cased this. We cased it or change the data type to float. So the next one is casing to integer. The same way we can use the int as a case to integer. Case to integer. Now the b is a type of float, yeah, 5.3 and 4. That's the float. We can case this to integer. Casing to integer, and now it will return to us as an integer. Now it will return as a integer with 5 only, omitting the floating points, the decimal points. Why? We say that integer only accept whole number without any decimal points. Now it's a decimal point. It's an integer and omitting the decimal points. While we have the actual code, we have 3.4. That's t and 4. After 5, we have 3 and 4. But in here, the output is 5 only. Why 5 only? Because the int or the integer, as we said in previous session, accepts only whole numbers, no decimal points, no decimal precisions. So it accepts this one. The casing for integer is just you need to put integer between parentheses. but you must have the value. You must have the value. So there's another two examples. One is to 5 kilometers, another kilometers and 25. We can convert this also. You can do like this is a number. This is a number and has a 3.4. Let's change this one and see what happens. Integer. So what will be output, Yusuf? This is a text. Shahram, what will be the output of this? This is a number with, but it has a text and has also 3.4 a number on it. Any guessing? The output will be 3. Let's see if it comes 3. Return. Now it's the 0. Why 0? Because there is a in text inside this. When the numbers, we said yesterday that when numbers alone without text, without any text, that we can call it a number string. But when we have a text with numbers, that's a text. Yeah. When we have text and number, a combination of text and number, that's a text only, not a number, not an input string. So it's the same way we can case to floating points. We can case to floating points also, and also we can case to booleans to return only true and false, 1 and 0. For booleans we can store, we can case using the bool keyword. You can do this. So in the B is float, we can do it the bool, and you can check now. It's a bool true. Why true? Because it has values. When it doesn't have value, it will return 0. But when it has a value, it will return true. So as we know, the booleans only store true and false and nothing else. Only trues and false. So if a value is 0, null, false or empty, the bool converts into false. Otherwise true. Even minus 1 converts to true. So as we said, if we have a value, it will return true. But if we don't have value, it will return false. Even there is null or false or empty, it will return 0. But even you have a negative number, it will return true. Why? Because it has a value. It has a value. Even negative is also a value. Something is negative, it is also value. Then next one is casting to array. So what's array, Yusuf? Do you know array? Yeah. Anwar, what's array? Multiple values in a single variable, but all should be the same data type. All should be the same data type. Thank you, Mushtaba. So we can case it to array even if you are storing your text. We can case it to array. Array is a variable, user-defined variable that stores multiple values of the same data type in a single variable. In a single variable, multiple values of the same data type. We have two types of arrays in PHP. One is the indexed arrays, another is the associative arrays. The indexed arrays store values according to indexes, but the associative arrays index stores values store values as a key and pair, key and value pair, key and value. So when we are getting values from our database, we get them according to associative arrays, not as indexed array. So an array is a user-defined variable, a user-defined data type that stores the same type of values, multiple values, but not single value, more than one values. For single values, we can use normal data types and normal variables. But in array, we can store multiple values. So we can case it to array. Just put the array keyword. Now the number is 5.34. It's a float number. We can case it to array. And also case in and a string to array. Let's see the output. And a string to array. Let's get the output and here. Now it says the numbers array and has one element. One has one element, and the element is a float value, and float value is 5.3 and 4. Has one element, and the element is index 0. The element is in index 0 and has a float data type with value of 5.3 and 4. The another one is a array with the single value what and stored in arrays index 0 and has the value of a string with 4 characters. The 4 characters are 3.4 because 4 characters we have as blank space here. That's why it has a 4 characters. So array elements are separated using column, commas, not others. If you have a comma separated value, you can use the array. So the next one is, so there's a note. When converting into arrays, most data types converts into an indexed array with one element. When converting into arrays, most data types convert into an indexed array with one element. So as we have 3.5.5 index, change it to indexed array and store the value in index 0. As we said, the index in array start with 0. Totally calculations computer science starting with 0, not with a number or not with 1. So they change to an indexed array with one element only. Null values convert into an empty array object. When there is a null value or a zero value, it will convert to indexed array of empty array objects. Objects convert into associative arrays where the property names becomes the keys and the property value becomes the values. When we have an object, it will convert into associative array. But other data types convert to an indexed array because objects are a pair of key and values. So in this case, it will change to associative arrays. So there's an example. The example is a car class has a two values, public car and color and public model, and as a constructor, the full constructor that accepts two parameters, color and model, and these parameters are linked to these variables and has a value a function that returns the values. Has a function that returns the values. You can case this to function, to array. The function returns the my car is the color and the model. The color and model. So we have a class that's named car. Has two default variables and accepts them as an input. Accept them as parameter or input and returns the message. My car is the color and the model. As it returns the function called message and we can store them values. So how we can? Let's do this. We have a class car. I think we have worked on that previously. Maybe you have it in here or not. And test. I think it was in a test.php. Anyway, let's do this. So we have a class that's car. And our class has two variables. They are public variables. And we have a default constructor for this that accepts two parameters, two inputs. We can do anything using these two. And we have a return message, a function, a method that returns a message. The message is my car is this car, this model and color. And we can get objects like as we did a my car and we did object of our car to my car and with values of red and Volvo. And then case this my car, this is a class that returns as an object. This will return as an object. But we case this to an array. We case this to an array. Let's see what will the output here. Now it says that we have an variable array with two elements. With two elements. This array is the associate, the indexed array, the array that we changed our data types like float and string. This converted to indexed array. These have 0 and the value. This one also has a 0 element. Then one element but a 0 index. But this one that converted to associative array. Why associative array? It says now array with two elements. Array with two elements, but we don't have index in here. 0, 1, 2, 3. But we have key and value. The key is the color. The key is the color. The value is red. The next key is the model. The value is Volvo. This is the associative array. When we are working with databases, especially when we are creating a database or a website, we work with associative arrays. We get data according to associative variables. So let me show an example on a practical project here. One of the projects, like this one. Let me index. If you see here, we did a select query on project, a select query on project, and then we requested our data as an associative. Or said what? MySQLi fetch a sock run. The run is the query that we had here. The query that we had. Now, when we get access to, because we have associative array, we don't need to put 0, 1, 2, 3. We need to put the keys. The keys are the column names. The keys are the column names, like project code, project name, project type, project donor location, and this. These are the keys that returns our values. The values are the val the associative array have key and value pair. So the keys are the columns in our database, the columns in our table that we have. The values are the rows and records that are stored on that columns. Any records that are stored on that column, they are the values on them. So we use the associative array for this case. So that's why our objects convert to associative array. Here we didn't mention it to be associative array, but since this one returns an object converts to associative array. So any points up to here? So I think it will be enough. Any questions?